G'day legends, g'day superstars. Welcome back to Lace Out and welcome back to our 2023 season previews. And on the airwaves today, there's only one person when it comes to the Gold Coast Suns that we could rely on. He is a crowd favourite. He is a Lace Out favourite. We know him as Thom Roker, but we just call him Great Tommy because he is a superstar when it comes to the Gold Coast Suns. And Tom, I'll tell you what, if you're not excited, I know you were excited last year and you really said that they were going to make finals and they unfortunately had some bad luck. What's going to happen in your eyes in 2023? And welcome back for 2023 as well.
Oh, thanks, Peps. No, it's good to be back. Three years in a row. I think there's a few third-year veterans coming back for the...
There will be. This will be a lot of third-year veterans coming back because people just say, look, you're doing your previews. So we're doing our previews again, and they want the same ones back because they do an awesome job. And like I said, when it came to Gold Coast, there was only one name that I could think of, the superstar, Thom Roker. So tell me, my friend, bit of an interesting year last year with the Suns. In your eyes, it didn't? Because I know we were talking about towards the end of the year, they're going to make finals, they're going to make finals, and they sort of just screwed the pooch towards the end of the year. How did you see it? And then we'll get into the 2023 stuff.
Well, it was a bit of a miserable start. And, you play teams like Melbourne, and Melbourne are very good at winning those ones they need to win, and the Suns haven't learnt that yet. And then looking back, there's a couple of games there, you go, oh, come on, St Kilda, Melbourne, or whatever. And then they come good. And then what usually happens, key injuries, not the amount of injuries, but just key injuries. So you lose a bloke like Lockie Weller, he's a senior guy on the team, and he was in really good form. Connor Butterick, we lost him the year before, and then he had another knee injury. That awful injury for Will Powell, which really... rattled the team too because he's a really popular player. And so it was just the key personnel there. And so you're bringing in the kids. And when you're playing the kids and you're not going so well, you're just going to lose a few. And then you lose games like Hawthorn. Oh, God, knocks us out of finals contention. Percentage was good. Percentage was top 8 percentage. So over 100%. That last game against the Roos kind of lifted it up a bit, but 10 wins. 10 wins ain't bad. I think not to compare to Melbourne as we're going to win the flag, but Melbourne had a bloody shocking year and then came back. So teams like Collingwood last year, I reckon top 4 isn't out of the question, but finals has just got to be a given. I mean, you don't give your coach a 2-year extension and then say, oh, it doesn't matter if your results aren't there. They've got to get the results, and the team's primed.
Yeah, and I think you're primed. Like one guy that you left out was Ben King going down. Like you see him go down, and I think from a supporter's perspective, I just love the way the guys play. I love the way the Suns play. Like if you said, did you have a favourite interstate team? At the moment, it would be the Suns. It'll probably change when I speak to Freo and West Coast because then they'll be my favourite team. But, they unfortunately when he went down, it was like the arse end of the season is going to fall out. But then you had these two blokes that you brought in, which was Levi Casbolt and Marlborough Choi. I got that right. And they just exceeded expectations down forward to the point it was like, how did Richmond let him go? But more importantly, how could Casbolt, Casbolt was just there as a backup and he excelled in that position as well too. Then you go down back, you got probably one of the best fullbacks running around or one of the best backmen, Sam Collins, just running around in the back line just setting things up. But that midfield that you've got, it's exciting. And you're right, your percentage is 102%. Now, I always look at not the wins and losses, but look at the percentage. Mm-hmm. And to have, a pretty much finish in the middle of the range in terms of wins and losses, but to have that percentage above 100%, normally Gold Coast to be sitting 70s, if you're lucky, 80. So it was seeming to me last year, one of their big issues was when we got to May, everything used to fall over. They were running out games a lot better. They were lasting in the season a lot longer. And you're right, they had a really good draw last year, and unfortunately, just due to injuries that happened throughout the season, they just fell in a hole. And look, that's expected. They are a young team, but you can't keep going with that. Drew's going to be in his 6th season, which is exciting. I think that's longest since McKenna. I think McKenna had 4.
Well, right? McKenna was 4 AFL seasons, but he was at the club for a few years before that.
Exactly right. So,
and tenure for a coach, you need tenure.
You do.
Imagine if you think of the last few premiership coaches, going back to Clarkson, that's a different story. But since Clarkson, each one of those coaches is under pressure at a certain time, and then they have a good season, and then imagine if the Tigers had got rid of Dimmer.
Well, they almost did. Remember after 2017, they stuck fat. Same thing with Goodwin. There was a chat with getting rid of him. Scott, if they'd fallen over again down at Geelong. So it does happen. And I think now what's happening is you've got that little bit of a perfect storm. Those kids are becoming men. They got those 70, 80 games in. You still haven't, funny enough, had a 200-game player at the club, which is almost astounding. You're about to, and a couple of rippers. And there's one who's going to miss out by 4 games, I think, which is Jared Harbrow, which was shattering. I would love to have seen him get to 200 games. But I think just with the midfield, and we'll get into that in a moment, I reckon there's really exciting things too. So you've got the stability on the field, you've got the stability off the field, and if you can get, like I say, get the off and the on right, anything can happen. And you're right, like I said, anything can happen with this club. It is really exciting. I have to ask though, before we have a look at it this year, I do have to talk about the elephant in the room. The whole salary cap, Jack Bales, draft pick stuff. Like, give us some insight into that, because we hear what was happening from a news perspective, but just how did it get to that point for them to say, "Hey, listen, take this bloke and we'll throw in a top end draft pick as well"?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a bit of a classic example of what's called cognitive dissonance, and what that basically means is I could explain until I'm blue in the face. Some people just won't accept it, but it's very simple. You've got a club that over the journey was really in a bad place when COVID happened as far as salary cap. And I'll give you a couple of other examples.
Yep.
Collingwood.
Yep.
They were in a bad place, and GWS also in a bad place. Now, what I mean by that is, as you know, you spend the salary cap, but no one spends exactly. They can go over by 5%, but then they got to go under by 5%. And everything they do has got to be, that's why our postseason's so long between the grand final and the draft, is because then at the AFL house, they're all going through the books and making sure everyone's kosher. Yep. Well, what else happened along the way for the Suns is not only did the salary cap go down, the Suns did not reduce anyone's salary because they couldn't. They're in this situation where they're re-signing, they're extending, they're offering new deals. They couldn't lowball anyone. They tried to lowball Rankine and he went. But they were never going to pay him $800. So thank you, we'll take the draft pick and keep the money.
Yep.
But with Bose, they back-ended him $1.6 million for 2 years. Now, I love Jack Bose. I've met him. I've met his old man. His old man's a friggin' legend from up in Cairns. Bosey's got family on the Gold Coast, and he really wanted to play at the Suns for the rest of his life. But he's a fringe player. He's not worth that much money, and he possibly wasn't going to play a whole lot, and he's been injured a lot. And so given the choice, by telling him you're going to have to take a pay cut, which is, no one likes that, but it wasn't just a pay cut. It's like, we owe you this money, but we're going to pay it to you over no, he wasn't into it, even though that's what Geelong have done.
Well, I was going to mention that too, and now that you brought it up, I was actually pretty, excuse the terminology here, listeners, I was pretty pissed off the way that Geelong got away with that. Because if you're saying this guy's owed, so 1.6 over 2 years, and I think they broke that up over, was it 3? 4. They should have had to. They should.
In their defence, I've got a feeling they might have chucked in a bit of their own money. So they're taking on the Suns $1.6 million. They might have turned it into about $2 million, and then it's like $5 million a year.
Okay.
More than he's
worth. Then I would. That's all right. But I was just, when I heard they did that, well, like, how can you? If he's got 2 years, how can you spread it over 4? and they must have redone his contract. And look, they may have topped it up with some, but it was just an interesting one to throw. But to throw in pick 7 as well, that was the one that was like, well, hold on, I can understand you getting rid of this guy. How come they had to give something to say, you get him, but we'll give you, it was almost, you get pick 7 and we'll give you Jake Bales with it as well too.
Well, if they didn't do that, there would have been a bit more like the Trudeau situation where they'd be paying off that 1.6 million. They'd be paying that off over the next 5 years.
Yeah. And you don't want that.
I don't know how they managed to balance their salary cap. I think the AFL's intervened there. But I do know it would have been bad for the Suns either way. And getting the pick back for Rankine meant, well, and the Suns had the most draft picks this year of any team. Yeah. And they traded most of them forward, and we'll get into why they did that. But I just think they just went, well, we've got heaps of picks, and we can't make the finals. So what's the one thing we really need? And the answer was cap space.
Yep.
And when you're paying Matty Rowell an extension, and you extend Ben King and Jack Lukosius, and they're hoping to extend Noah Anderson, and they've got to have money in there, and guys like Will Powell and Connor Buderick and Charlie Ballard, like all
and
these
favourite from last year, who I'm going to mention because he came out of nowhere, Double J, and you were exactly right when you mentioned him. And I think we were all a little bit, hello, Tommy. Yeah. I think we even mentioned it on the podcast a number of times. Tommy mentioned him. Yeah. Exciting stuff.
So they've got the star talent there, and they just needed to bring in some B-grader veterans. And a guy like Rankine didn't want to be team first. See you later. We'll take the pick and the money. And we got a better pick than we had. So there's that. But look, sometimes I think it's the pick you've got that you've got to offer. If the Suns had mucked around and sort of gone, oh, hey, Sydney, can we trade our pick 7 for your late teens picks? And then still tried to offload Bose with all that money and send him. And this is another thing, again, people just won't accept it, but the Suns never send a player somewhere he doesn't want to go.
Yeah, they seem to be pretty good with that.
Fremantle was Will Brodie's favourite team when he was a teenager. They've sent players where they want to go, and they do the deal, and the other clubs always screw us.
Yeah,
and it's just when you're a little club and you're really trying to make. The Suns don't make enemies at the trade table. Other clubs do. Sydney will screw you on bids and all that kind of stuff. There's clubs out there that are ruthless.
Oh, down here in Melbourne, we've all got a bit of a soft spot, not for Essendon and Mr. Dodoro, because he will he'll give you water and want to take wine from you. That's just the way it rolls. There are some clubs
that people hate him for it, and how are the Bombers going?
Yeah, exactly right. So, yeah, it's funny. You speak to the Essendon faithful, they'll talk about it. They reckon he's got pictures. He must have something hidden in a safe or in a safety deposit box, because everybody else got the chop from Essendon this year except him too. But it's about your club. It's about your club. How many
days is it since they won a final?
We're not going to go into that. I don't think we've got enough time in the podcast to be able to go through all those numbers. But it is a very long time. Apparently turned 18, turning 19 this year. So, it's been a while. I mean, I will go through a couple of things, though. I've got to talk about two blokes in particular. Touk Miller. Yeah. There is just love. I think there's just universal love for this bloke. If there's one bloke you'd love to win a Brownlow, it's him, because you just know his running capacity, but he just gives every single game. Like, he's the first person probably picked, and the first person the opposition will be putting time into as well too, especially if you guys hit your straps this year, you really go, because he is just, he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But the second guy, and I think we mentioned him previously as well too, he reminds me, he's a bit of a Daniel Kowalski type of footballer. If he had his own time, he'd be the number one ruckman in the league. But unfortunately, he's stuck behind a guy named Gawn. He's been stuck behind a guy named Grundy. And we're talking about Jared Witts, because ever since he went up to Brisbane, he has just shot the lights out of that place. Mm-hmm. And those two as leaders within the club, for the young guys coming in, you can't ask for two better blokes. Just your opinion on those two and what those two gentlemen mean to the success for your club this year.
Yeah, well, they're our captains as far as we know. They're going to go around again as co-captains. Starting with Witsy, I mean, he's from Sydney, right? And he was a cricketer. And he's one of those guys. Yeah, I know, right? Imagine getting I haven't even been able to find out exactly what. I think he was like a Shane Watson kind of opening bowler, opening batsman kind of thing.
People that are all uncoordinated. Do you remember Bruce Reid all those many, many years ago? That's what I picture. I don't picture Shane Watson. I picture Bruce Reid and the sticky tape.
So he played juniors for GWS, and his favourite team was the Swans. But Collingwood back in those days was always doing these dodgy little things because they hated the Suns, they hated GWS, they hated Sydney, and so they gave him a scholarship, which meant that they could pick him outside of the draft. So they took him, and the Collingwood's always getting ruckman. So yeah, look, Grundy was better, but gee, it was such a cheap. I mean, ruckman cost you an arm and a leg, and look at Grundy, not even not even at the prize anymore. If they could get Witsy back, they'd pay a fortune for him. No, he's gotten better every year. That's the thing. He's gotten better every year. He's now really good at hit-outs to advantage. And part of that's having a better midfield around him. But you couldn't put superstars around him 5 years ago because he wasn't hitting to advantage as much. He's winning, but sometimes when you're winning in a really, like you're smashing them, you're winning in a predictable way, and a good midfield like Melbourne or the Bulldogs, they'll just work out where you're going to hit it to and shark it anyway. So not that the Melbourne guys don't get good service from their ruckman, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Look, and you've got to keep it in perspective as well too. Like last year, you led the league in hit-outs, but it's almost like you had the Rolls Royce giving it to the mini minors, and the mini minors just get smashed completely out the way. Now that they're getting a bit of size on them, they're like a quartet of Hiluxes in the middle now. So there is actually some size and some grunt that they can hold their own. And those 50s, those hit-outs will turn into more hit-outs to advantage, and then hopefully then transition into more, because you're still, unfortunately, regardless of you got the ball in the middle, around the grounds, you were still getting blown away. Like you were still on average, the last team to have, from a disposals perspective, lowest in the league, average. And we're talking from an average of around about 60 difference between you and the Dockers and the Blues and the Power. So they just get their hands on the ball a lot more because probably a little bit fitter, a little bit more, but depends on also how they play. Like from a handball perspective, they're quite high up in that where you're not as well too. But once again, you get cars with bigger tanks, boys with bigger tanks, another preseason into them. It just means that they're not going to be able, it's not just the fade outs, but they're going to be able to go longer but harder as well too. And I think that's what we expect. You have Rowell, Anderson, Ainsworth just coming straight out of the middle to Chol, Casbolt, King. That's in it. That's not a backline I would want to be trying to match up on in a hurry.
Yeah, and the game plan is not like your traditional full forwards, half-foots. All sorts of moving pieces and rotations, and that's getting more mature. But Tuke Miller, look, we've all said everything about him, but the thing is, what he did very young age is that every off-season he'd be like, all right, the coaches have given me everything, all the feedback I can have to become a better player. And then he'd take himself overseas to work out how he can be a better athlete, right? So he's working on his kicking and working on all of the skills that he had knocks on him for not being able to kick straight when he was at full pace, which is usually young players are a bit how you going with that. He'd go over to the US and he'd get a little bit faster every year, and he was already pretty quick. I mean, he was captain of Vic Metro, and almost every team overlooked him in the draft. He went like 29 or something. Even the Suns overlooked him with two of their earlier picks. So he's just one of those guys. What's happened at the Suns is that he's come in and said, look, I'm going away and doing all this fitness in the off-season. Other blokes are going surfing, going to Bali, doing their thing. No one's fit enough. No one's got a tank to run out the fourth quarter of games. And they had a big overhaul, and it was sort of around the same time as Dew came in. But as you'd know, with the Melbourne guys, because you guys had the best fitness guy in the bloody world come sort you guys out. So our fitness guy is a little known guy by Alex Rigby, his old man's the team doctor, so it's very much an in-house thing. And Rigby came in and said, right, we're going to New Zealand, we're going to climb mountains, we're going to ride 200 kilometres, and just smashed him. But it didn't make him fit enough. His plan was a 5-year plan. And now we're at the end of the 5-year plan, and they would run rings around their former selves. These younger guys are up in their 22, 23, 24, and they've got the tank, they're ready to go, they've worked on the little parts of their games, and it's, I know we're talking about Took, but it's his standards that they're trying to meet up to.
That's what it is. The fitness is one thing, but the standards to instill in the entire group for the next ones to come through and the next ones, because that is your culture. That is what's going to build for future success. Is when we always hear about the Swans, the Bloods culture. Yeah. It's what we demand from you. Now, the club can set it, but the players are the ones who have to implement it and run it and embrace it. And for anybody coming, this is where we are. If you're going to be part of it, great. If not, you won't be playing much game time on a Saturday or Sunday between 2 and 5, unfortunately, guys, because we want people who are going to commit themselves to this. And you mentioned Rankine, and I'll get into him in a moment, where some people have definitely taken that on board, and you can see some of the results in your BNF weren't probably the same people a couple of years ago, but then you've also got people who have moved on. One thing we're talking about the standards as well too, you've got the 7th oldest list, but in terms of experience-wise, you're the 12th. Now, you think, gee, that's Gold Coast old? But when you have a look at those names, it sort of blows the averages out. We're talking like Levo Casbolt, Sam Day's been pretty much there since day dot. Jared Witts is pushing up there a little bit. David Swallow, Brandon Ellis, and then you got Alex Sexton. So if you have a look at the first 5 names I've rolled out, 4 of those 5 have come from another club.
Yeah, true, but they're the sort of stalwarts.
Yeah. But what's going to happen is that when they drop off, that age profile is going to drop considerably. So it's a bit of a red herring when you look at it, because a lot of your beautifulness is sitting in that 26 and lower category, which is really
well. I think you say that because the median age, so not the average age, but the median age is 24. But funny thing with that is that we don't have any 24-year-olds. They're either under 24, they're over 20, or actually, I'm going by.
You got one, Ben Ainsworth. He's the only one.
Age they will be when the season starts. So yeah, there are a couple now, but they're having their birthdays next month or whatever. So the median age with you is 24, and there's half the list under it, half the list over it, and the average age is above 25 or 24 for the first time ever. But you've also got a lot of guys who've just come in, like Ben Long.
Yep.
And Jake Steen, all the commentators call him Stein, but he tells us it's Steen. And yeah, he's a decent backup key defender. Yeah. If you need someone to get in there, hasn't played a lot of games, but he was a project player. He was a decathlete. GWS gave him a go, and he was just the odd man out. They were cleaning out their roster, rebuilding, and they went, oh, well, you're out of contract and the other blokes aren't, so you're gone.
Yep.
You're not for nothing.
But this is what I really love when you look at those numbers. If I go from 23 down, okay, so just 23. Will Powell, these are all people 23 and under. So strap yourselves in, listeners, because it blew me away when I read this. Will Powell, Thomas Berry, Ben King, Jack Lukosius, Caleb Graham, 37 games, Noah Anderson, Connor Buderick, Malcolm Rosas, Matt Rowell, Sam Flanders, Jeremy Sharp. One guy I really caught my eye last year was Alex Davies running around. Mac Andrew as well too. Like that's core. That's 10 of your 22, 23 now that are under 22 or under. Like that's a group that grows together.
It's a pretty.
You have got those older ones. But that's your core. And unfortunately, the last number of seasons, you had that core stripped and going to other clubs. It seems to me that they want to be there together. And a number of those statements made by people by signing on again have said, yes, we see where this is going and we want to be part of it. You know, Matt Rowell could have come back to Melbourne quite easily. Anderson could have come back to Melbourne quite easily.
Rowley probably wouldn't have even got a pick as high as Rankine.
Yep.
Because the Crows always wanted to get Rankine back.
Exactly right.
There are teams who want Rowell, but let's face it, he hasn't exactly been Sam Walsh. But you know what?
In defence, he had two of the worst probably injuries that he could have in his first couple of seasons. It hasn't been easy for him.
Yeah.
But if he gets back to what he was like when he first came out, three threes in his first 3 games, I think it was, or 3 out of the 4.
Yeah,
he's a cracker. Even if he gets to 80% of that, 90% of that, like he's your in and under. You need that in and under as well. You mentioned really quickly Izak Rankine, because I don't want to talk about last year's stuff, but happy he's gone from a culture perspective. What was the feeling with him up there?
Oh, look, definitely mixed emotions, because when he's on, he's on. I mean, you guys have got Cozzy Pickett.
Yep.
You know the feeling when, and I put them in the same, those two guys have got probably a ceiling of Eddie Betts. They could just be anything. There might be Tom Papley, which is probably just below. They're going to be successful players if they can avoid injury, if they can keep their heads screwed on.
Yep.
And I think Rankine's one of those guys who the signs have been there that if he can get his body right, and it's not right because even last year played a brilliant game round, won 4 goals, won the game off his boot, 2 weeks off with a soft tissue injury.
Yeah.
Comes back, takes quite a while to get back to match fitness, but you have to play him, right? He's a superstar. You can't run him around in the VFL for a few weeks because you have to play him because he's out of contract. So I just felt like we had our arms tied behind our back a bit with Izak, and I think they handled him pretty well, but he didn't always earn his place, and he kept on sort of living off his superstar moment.
Potential?
Yeah, big time. And Adelaide's welcome to that. You can't replace it, but I think the Suns have got plenty of small forwards. And maybe Rankine didn't quite fit Stuart Dew's plan, because Dew has very much been like, I don't care if you can't kick a goal. I'll pick you in the forward pocket if you can apply forward defensive pressure. Leads to a turnover. That's a goal assist.
Yep.
Goal's a goal.
Well, he played with one of the best, didn't he? Good old Cyril. So he knows, look, if that's the gold standard and that's what I need you to do, if you're not going to do it, well, goals are goals. Great.
Yep.
But some of those defensive forwards now, like you mentioned Cozzy Pickett, he kicks goals, but there's times when he doesn't score. But then if you rewind the tape and look at that forward pressure as well, there's definitely something there. Same with Carlton. You have a look at their their little pocket rocket mosquito fleet running as well in their forward line. They don't always kick bags, but the pressure, like you don't want to have those 3 guys running at you trying to get a ball out of defensive 50. It's going to be an absolute nightmare as well. Okay, so 2023. I can't talk really much about your draft picks because you literally only had one.
Oh well, no, because you've got to sort of pay the draft picks, because obviously in the actual draft itself, that's one thing. But the rookie draft.
Oh, yeah, a couple of rookies, no. Well, you actually got quite a few rookies. I was just having a look at the list here. I think there's something.
Adding depth. There wasn't
on your list.
They didn't want any kids. They only got 3 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
The president came out a couple of years ago and said, we need to do something different, and it's not more 18-year-olds. Well, that's how the whole system works, is you get 18-year-olds and you bring them through, but we had to do something different. So I'm really pleased that they went out and got Tom Berry and Ben Long in trades, but they picked up a few decent rookies along the way, and they just add that, like someone like Jed Anderson, he's going to get to play in Darwin for the Suns, hopefully, in front of his home crowd. He's going to be halfway home anyway, so he's much closer, and he's going to play with 7 other guys who have all looked up to him because he's one of the trailblazers for Darwin, and they all know each other. It's a bloody small world up there. And so, I mean, and like I mentioned before, Jake Steen, we needed an extra big. Have you seen him with his shirt on? I don't usually without their shirt on, but he's built like a brick shithouse, and you wouldn't want to.
Shirt on or shirt off? Because I saw the one of Took Miller doing his run-throughs at the start of the year. And
they're fit. Those guys are fit.
And he's
2011.
Cut from marble, that photo.
Yep. Levi Casbolt is probably the fittest bloke, gym fit, as in lifting, in the AFL. Like, no one at Carlton could beat him. No one at the Suns could. Like, even Witsy says, no, Levi's just leaving us in his dust.
Yeah.
They've got these guys coming through who are lifting heavier weights and say to the younger guys, "Oh, come on, you reckon you can get a go before me? Well, I can lift bloody 30 kilos more than you, so they should give me the jersey."
And you have a look. Chol kicked 44 goals last year. Cav Bolt had 35. Well, for those two, like I said, when you have King go down, you go, where are we going to score? And I think I even mentioned that to you. Like, I can't see where you're going to score. For those two to do what they did, there's probably 8 other clubs that would love to have had a 1-2 combo that worked out as well as those two did. So you're definitely looking forward to the year. All right. So who's going to be the smoky from your perspective? So last year, if I go through the papers, it was Joel Jeffrey. He was the one that you said to me, you said, Peps, watch out for this bloke. He could be anything. I've got my eyes on him. He has been absolutely sensational. And he was that. He is exactly that. I think he almost like a cult figure at the club from a crowd perspective and from some of his actions on there as well too. It was almost going to take mark of the week every week at one stage.
His old man, legend in the AFL as well.
Yep.
His old man played AFL or VFL, I should say. And it was sort of in the days where a lot of Indigenous players didn't really get discovered until their mid-20s, and then they'd go and play they'd have a family back at home or whatever, and they never played 300 games. They do these days, and that's good. But, yeah, his old man sort of has always said to him, I didn't make it to the very, very top. He played, I think he might have played for St Kilda and Brisbane Bears and maybe Melbourne. Anyway, he comes from good footy stocks. And his sister, although she's sort of aged out of it these days, his sister is regarded as one of the best women players in the country. It's just she was before her time. Yep. So, he's brilliant. Love him. I am going to predict something way out of left field. Way out of left field. Yep. A young fellow by the name of Bodie Uland.
Ooh. Okay.
Gold Coast boy.
Yep.
Shot the blonde hair. He went really well in his draft year, but remember the Suns used to be able to just pre-list.
Yes.
So all the clubs just lost interest in him because the Suns just went, well, it's obvious who we're going to just take.
Yep.
So some people had him as high as first round, but the Suns just quietly took him. I happen to know that he had a bit of a he because up here the kids finish school and they've got a whole year of doing nothing before they get drafted.
Yep.
And so it's been a bit of a pattern that they get bloody hurt at work or they try and overdo it because they feel like they've got to make a bit of money while
they're waiting. Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, he had back stress fractures, which is it's one of those injuries. It takes longer than an ACL to recover from. So they just put him in cotton wool, and bloody hell, he's come back fit as a bull. Now he's been compared to Luke Hodge and Luke Parker.
Well, he's looking all right too. He's 185 and 84 kegs.
More than that now.
Nice mould. Well, that's going by the footywire.com AFL page.
He hasn't added any up top, but he can mark it like he's 5 inches taller. He's a midfielder, but he'll start in the back line. Peps, I actually had, as we go to air, today had an article published in Zero Hanger about this fella, Bodie Uland. So I'm not just speaking out of my butthole.
No.
I'll put my words down, and quite a few people have already read it. Will have already read it by the time they listen to this. But, if you want to know about him, that's where you can find out about him. Suns fans are just quietly happy because for years we've been looking for a defender who can go into the midfield but who can lock down the guys like Jordan Ngoe, Dusty Martin, Christian Petrarca, because they always flog us. Those guys always just kill us because we just don't have a lockdown defender of that size. And
not many clubs do, funny enough, don't they? They go, man, they play their team defence. Not many clubs have that designated stopper yet. I think it's a long lost art that when someone gets off the chain, park the ego at the door and put someone onto them.
Yeah, exactly. And if you could still play team defence while keeping an eye on the rat bags, well, and he can do that. So yeah, I really like him, but I reckon. Let's see. Bailey Humphrey was a good pick in the draft. You guys wanted to move up to get him. A lot of teams wanted to move up to get him. And in the end, once you've gambled out your you pick 7 with Bowes. You just got to take the early pick where it is and try and get an A grader.
Get the best player. And you know what? Within the first 10 to 15, usually, I would almost say first round, it's pretty much what you're going to get a gun regardless. And then
it's a gamble. It's a safe gamble, yeah.
It's a safe gamble.
And although he's been a dill with his drink driving, I think he went 3 times the limit. But Mac Andrew,
another one that you stole off us. Thanks AFL for changing the rules.
Well, yeah, no, I hate that rule actually, but it landed the Suns Mac Andrew, so he might pack up and go home, might get homesick, but I reckon he's going all right up here. Still rake thin, but once he just gets over this setback, gets stuck in the VFL for half a year, he'll be ready to try and come back in. And who knows what he'll be? I know he's taller than he's listed, because I've seen him next to blokes who I know exactly how tall they are. So I think he's about 206. So he's getting into the taller rucks. So he's just got to work on his forward craft, work on his defence, and then just try and get into the side as a backup ruckman. And we've got years for him to develop. But if he can show some signs this year.
Well, he's only 19. He's only on here. It says 201, but once again, there's a bit of mayo probably on this as well too. So there's probably
Well, maybe your child's 201, and
couldn't fall in love with that bloke last year.
So you see them standing side by side, and it's like, okay, you grew a bit, and you didn't want anyone to know about it.
Exactly right. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty of it as well too. So, according to Champion Data, and we take that once again with a grain of salt because we love Champion Data and everything that they bring, but I sometimes find it difficult to figure out how they rank people as a gun for their position when they don't even play there and all that sort of stuff. But they've ranked your draw as the 16th hardest, which is a good thing for you. Yep. So you've got a bit of a smile on your face. You play Adelaide, Brisbane, Carlton, North, St Kilda and Sydney. So you've got a nice mix. You've got the Adelaide, North, and probably St Kilda in there. You could probably win both of those, so that could almost be 6 wins. And then if you can pinch 1 or 2 out of Brisbane, Carlton, and Sydney as well, you're going to be in a really good spot for the year as well.
Sydney is easy.
Yep.
We bloody flog them every year.
Oh, they're scared of you. You're their bogey team.
Exactly. The other time that beat us was in the season was all done for us and half the side was injured. No one cared. The rest of the time, and SCG doesn't matter. We can flog them there.
I think you beat them. Did you beat them there last year? Or was it the season before you had that cracking win at the SCG?
Yeah, we've had a few.
We've had a few there. There was one that was just like go, like no one saw it coming. It was an absolute corker.
Last year the Suns were heading to the bottom of the ladder and came out and just thumped Sydney, and everyone thought Sydney was premiership favourite. Yep. And they're Sydney and they're making the grand final, but they can't face. There's just something about the matchup. But it's at Metricon, so although Metricon Stadium's due for a rename.
Ooh, hold on.
So their contract's done, and the new stadium sponsors have got to come to the party. But yes, we may not be calling it that for very much longer at all.
Do you know what it's going to be, or are you keeping that under wraps?
They said it's going to be a bank, and it's a bank that you don't know very well. But the big clue is that the bank's from my hometown. Which is Toowoomba.
Oh.
I might as well tell you. Heritage Bank seems to be which you probably haven't heard of them, but they're a country bank. So they're full of farmers' money, basically.
Beautiful.
And they haven't got a sort of a sporting footprint anywhere. So they won't.
A lot of banks are doing it. A lot of banks are doing it, which is good.
Exactly.
All right.
Sorry. Yeah, we'll have to get used to a new name change.
New name. It hasn't changed as many as GMHBAQ
Alphabet
Stadium down at Geelong, but you're getting there. And it's almost as many as the Telstra Marvel Etihad Dome Melbourne as well. Sydney at home first, Essendon at home. Sydney away, Essendon home, Geelong home, St Kilda away. So that's a nice little start to the season, especially getting Geelong up there and Sydney at home as well too. Really good. Your last 3 are Sydney away, which you don't have any issues with. Carlton at home, lovely again. And North Melbourne away, which won't scare you at all as well. Round 13. All right. We do it every single year. Reputations are going to go on the line. Funny enough, I actually went back to yours last year. I think you picked either Melbourne or Geelong to win it last year. So I'm going with Geelong because I had your note written down there. So you picked it beautifully. I think you also picked Charlie Dixon to get the Norm Smith. Not Norm Smith, the Coleman. That was a complete fizzer. Anyway, let's have a look. Let's put the first thing. Where's Gold Coast finishing in 2023? Mr. Roker.
With that easy draw,
yep,
easy. That's how you get up there.
Got to get a good draw.
This year, they were the team that we had them twice. They knocked us over twice. That's how you get up there. You win. You got your double up matchups. This year there's 23 games. Remember?
Yep.
So you get your 6 double ups, and you just win enough games to make it in the top 4. And then there's those teams. There's usually 6 or 8 teams who are going for top 4, but the teams who've got the really tough run home, someone's got to miss out. So you're going to see a team from last year in the top 4 go tumbling out, and you're going to see a couple of teams just tumble out of the 8 altogether because they got their draws.
It happens. I think it's 2 teams go in, 2 teams normally go out as well too. So
every couple of years, the team just goes straight up into the top 4. I mean, I'd be happy with top 8, but I might as well put it out there.
If you aim for the stars and you fall, you're going to be ending up a lot higher than most other people ever dream of. So why not go forth? Hey, if you finish 6th, you're still in the top 8. Rightio. I'm going to do this a little bit different. I'm going to go backwards. Who is going to be your riser? So from a team's perspective, who's the one that you think is going to jump out, such as like Collingwood did last year? Is there one?
Okay, so there's a big movement in the club, and I'll take one for the club here. Big movement in the club. It's Sam Flanders or bust.
Yep.
We're all getting. Well, you're either on the Sam Flanders bandwagon or you're not. Now he's played about 30 games, but never in position. He's an inside bull. Didn't have the tank, and it was always going to take him a couple of years, but it's probably taken with COVID an extra year than we would have liked.
Yep.
But he's ready for it. It means that Matty Rao doesn't have to do so many centre bounce attendances. It means that Noah Anderson can probably slip out to a wing just so he's not always in there. And it means that you just go, rightio, Sammy, just bloody get in there and just win it. Because he can, but no one's really seen it. He gets 40 touches a week in the VFL. I know it doesn't translate, but when you see him in his real position,
you've got to give these guys games and just say, listen, mate, for the first half of the year, we're playing you there. Just get your experience, belief, and that'll give you that confidence. It's as simple as that. So good on him. If the club's behind him and they're saying, Sam, you know what, we think you can do it. He's got nothing to lose. Club's got nothing to lose. Just do it. Who unfortunately is going to be finishing up, do you think, at the end of this year, whether it's traded, whether it's moving on, retiring? Unfortunately, someone has to hang up the boots.
There will be a few.
Yep.
Because I don't want to take too long on this, but there'll be a few because the Suns are heading into their golden generation of academy.
Yep.
So they've got 3 guys who are tipped to go in the top 30 picks at this year's draft. That's why they swapped all their points for future picks.
Makes sense, yep.
And so you're going to see a few guys go, unfortunately. But there might be 1 or 2 guys who want to go. You know, they're not getting the game. They want to be traded. They might be younger. But we'll see what happens there. But I'm going to say it's Levi Casbold's swan song. He's not going to go around for another time. He might want to, but I reckon he'll spend more than half of the year in the reserves anyway. And that'll be good. The reserves
will be good because you saw what he did last year. He'll be 33 pretty much when the season starts. So if you have him as a backup, knowing what he's going to do, he'll be like, I'm fine with that, boys. You gave me more than I expected last year.
We've got to try Chol and King together. They're pretty similar players. If you look at their stats, apart from age, almost identical. So Cholly's probably had to learn the game more because he's born in another country. And Kingy's just had his ACL. So you watch how they go together. If it's no good, you bring in Casbolt.
Yep.
I mean, there's a far distant alternate universe where Ben King goes to fullback and Chol and Casbolt keep the train going. But
they always say, I I know they've been talking about Adam Tomlinson a bit this year because he's come off his knee. They reckon put him down to centre half back because you just have to run in straight lines. You don't have to get the twist and the turns. It's better for you. You can see the ball coming, get in the game a bit better.
Yeah.
You never know. They might say, listen, just for the first, if things aren't working for whatever reason, confidence-wise, we're just going to slot you behind the ball.
Yeah.
Have him behind the ball. And you'll probably go, you know what, if it gets my confidence up and it gets my hands on it a bit, then put
his brother in front of him in his whole youth, so he had to play there. His brother goes down with an ACL, and he finally says, "Put me up forward, coach." Kicks bloody 12 goals in his first game. So, yeah, no, he's brilliant. Look, the attrition's going to happen. Just quickly, if you put Stephen May, in the goal square up forward, he'll kick the goals you need. Maybe not for 4 quarters of a game, but he started out as a full forward. And he was bloody good. It's just that the Suns had about 5 full forwards early doors, and they when you've got too many full forwards, and they're all 22 years old, you got to turn one of them into a defender.
Yep. Yeah. It sucks when you do that. Oh, sorry, you're the third best forward. We have to make you to defender.
Yeah, and he wasn't even the third best. It was they had Sam Day, Tom Lynch, and Charlie Dixon, and Rory Thompson, who all wanted to play forward. And they're saying, you know, Stevie and Rory, you've got to go back.
We don't want him to move. He's okay down back, but it'd be great to throw him forward just to see what happens. They haven't done it yet, which would be strange.
Hey, did I say last year that Rory Thompson would be his final year?
No. I think you might be saying it this year, though, aren't you?
Well, no, he's done, yeah. He retired, so that's that.
No.
But
I don't think you said it, but
he win. He came back for Sydney, winning. We won against Sydney and Fremantle with him in the team, and it changed the whole defense.
That's it. It's just belief, Tommy. It's just belief. Hey,
cooked, and you know it with your favourite players. But good on him. He was a legend.
He's at it. That's all you can ask for. Brownlow medalist. Do you have one in mind? I know you want to say it because actually he's the one that I want to say as well. There's only 2 people that I want to say. One's from my team and one's from your team. And I think we spoke about him a little bit earlier on.
Well, the guys in your team tend to knock each other out because there's 2 blokes who are always going for it. So it's Took, but Noah Anderson will do better, and Noah Anderson already took some votes off Took, possibly took the medal off him. But I'd rather have 2 guys in the top 5 than one win it. So if that happens, then I think Took could say the same. And Took for BNF, it's not even close. I know I said Noah's coming, but Noah does a few of those actions where the umpires are going to notice it, whereas in the BNF, the Suns coaches, the way, how every club's BNF's different?
Yeah.
And the way the coaches award points in the BNF is on effort and, game-winning stuff. Well, Noah Anderson won a game off his own boot against Richmond, but he wouldn't do so well in the BNF as a few guys. Davey Swallow always does well in the BNF because he just gut effort. Well,
that was your top 3 last year. Miller, Anderson, Swallow, Witts, Collins, Rowell, Ainsworth, Ellis, Holman, and then last but not least was Izak Rankine. So you've got 9 out of the 10 still there.
Yeah.
That's nice. And a good mix of that is young blokes as well too. So are you putting in Mr. Miller for
Brownlow? Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's got to be a favourite. I mean, he won a few awards this last season. He won the Coaches Award.
On the Coaches Award, didn't he?
He came, equal first, but I mean, with Clary. So, I mean, if he's at Clayton Oliver level now, you know what I mean? And we know Clayton Oliver's not, we haven't seen the best of him. He's got another gear.
Oh, yeah.
Those 2 would be my but I'm going to say 2.
Well, I'll trade you a couple of packets of Smith's chips for Took just to come down to the D's because
when he's
we'd have him. We'd have him. Premier. Who's going to take it out this year? It's going to be an interesting one. We all thought Geelong was going to fall off the perch sometime last year, and they didn't even look like losing towards the end of the season too. You got your Collingwoods who have spiked up. You've got the 2021 Premiers, Melbourne. You've got maybe someone from outside of the 8, someone within the 8. I don't know. I still haven't made my mind up yet. Who do you think at this stage is? Can Sydney come back from their massive loss in the final?
It's never happened, has it?
No, it hasn't.
Not in the AFL era. I think West Coast might have been early doors. They might have been beaten handily, like 5-6 goals, and then they come back and won it. But no one gets absolutely smashed. In fact, Sydney could be, improvement's never linear. There's always a few bumps in the road. Like Melbourne made a preliminary final and then went back down the bottom of the ladder before they.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we got smashed 2 years later.
I'm going to say, if I was a betting man and I had a house to put on it.
Yep.
I do have a house, but I'm not going to put it on it. Brisbane.
Yeah?
Brisbane are the favourites. Yeah. A lot can happen between now and then, but yeah, it's just ridiculous how many players they've been able to attract. A-grade players have been attracting. It's all win now. A couple of years. By the end of the year, Rich could be gone. Zorko could be gone. In 5 years, they could have a whole lot of really good players gone and they start again. But I just reckon they're in it for win now. They don't care if they win one flag and go back to the bottom.
Yeah, I can see them coming up a fair bit. I know I can say it. They just still don't convince me. I don't know what it is. There's just something about Brisbane that I can't put my finger on it.
It's the midfield. They've got a really good number one midfielder, and the other guys are just plotters.
Yep.
And I mean, Jared Berry's coming good. McCluggage is out in the wing where he belongs. Neither of them can kick straight, but they just pressure, pile it forward.
I think Dunkley coming in is going to be a big win for them, and they get a brand new draft pick in Ashcroft as well too. So you put those two in, that gives them that 3 elite. You would say, because I haven't seen obviously Ashcroft play, but from all reports, a gun.
Well, he learned his craft at the Suns,
and then he gets his And then you get, what's his name? Gunston slotting into a half forward line now. How effective it's going to be, I don't know. Once again,
he could spend the whole year out with a PCL or something.
You never know.
But the doctors up there seem to be able to work miracles to get him out in the track. So,
but you're still going to have to put someone on him. That's the thing. You can't let him get away, because I've seen him almost win a game off his boot against my mob last year.
Oh, yeah.
They had no reason to win it.
No,
so
exactly.
If he does that and kicks his 30th season,
they don't need him to kick bags. They just need him to take marks and kick it up with Joe and Guns.
He needs to lift as well, but I'll talk about that with Brisbane later on. But I reckon, like I said, the Gold Coast Suns, they are in, like when you wake up in the morning and it's still dark, but that sunrise is just about to peek over. And then when it peaks, it's one of the most beautiful sights that you can see. I reckon that's where Gold Coast are. They're peaking. It's peaking over, and it's about to burst. And I reckon I have got you top 8 this year. I do have you making top 8. So
the thing about that, Peps, is that when you go out to the clubs when you're a young fella on the Gold Coast out in Surface, and you have a bit too much to drink, but you just don't want to go home, you go and sit on the sand dunes, and that's what you see. So you saying that just made me think, well, that's a real, every Gold Coaster knows that image, whether they've been up all night or they're getting up early in the morning for a jog or they're going out fishing.
They know that beautiful sight, and you want to see that beautiful sight, but in the grandstands at the moment called Metricon Stadium, late in the last quarter, 10 goals up, smiles all round. And it's a great place to watch footy too. A great place to watch footy.
But hopefully the crowds come back. The people on the Gold Coast do like footy.
Yep.
It's just, yourself, and I'm not having a go at you here, but when you want to take your kids to the footy and they're like, last 3 times I went to the footy, the team lost, Dad.
We know enough about that. Don't worry. Yes.
And now they're winning a bit.
They want to go.
And parents, I've spoken to a lot of parents, they're finding it a bit easier to get their kids to come back. And Christmas time, you buy them a new hat, son's hat. They come on.
I'm going to throw it in the drawer. Or I always ask, where's the receipt so I can take it back for a Collingwood or Carlton one. I get it.
No, my daughter told me she's a Collingwood fan, and I said, "Oh, you're dead to me."
If my kids ever say that, they can move out for all I care. Mr. Thom Roker, you are an absolute gem. I know you've been writing a little bit on the Hanger as well too. So if they wanted to find your details or find your articles on the Zero Hanger,
Zero Hangers, where I've been posting some stuff. I've got to put in a good word for them, because I was in podcasting and I've kind of moved over to the written stuff. It just helps me a bit more to be, do my research and all that, because I can tend to try and wing it and not sound like I know what to talk about. And I do know what I'm talking about if I've got a bit of time to sort of work on it. So I've really appreciated them. They're good at editing. They give good feedback, and I think they're a real up and comer. They've got a real quality about them, and some I hate to say young, but you know what I mean. Some emerging journalists who really know what they're talking about. They're not just reprinting stuff they got from somewhere else
or anything along those lines. Yeah, I get it. So what we'll do is we'll actually put a link in the show notes to your profile so they can see your articles as well too. Because if your articles are almost a tenth of the awesomeness that you are and what you've rolled out today, everybody will be reading it. So it's
not just Sun stuff. It's do try and write about other stuff as well because it's a bit monotonous. But
we're here for the Suns. We're here for the Suns. Yeah. And you know what? You need to have someone who's passionate about their team because other teams have got bucket loads of it. The Suns they just need one, and they've got you at a minimum.
Well, believe it or not, there's quite a few people online who are diehard from the start. Who, they're very supportive and they always say, "When's your next article?" Or, what do you think about this? But there's a lot to be. We don't have time to go through it, but I could tell you about 6 kids who are coming through the academy in the next 3 years who are all Australian in their age level. One of them's all Australian as an under 18 and he's only 17. And they're all going to be 30 draft picks. So the Suns are just, the talent's coming in, but there's no go-home factor.
Beautiful. So, that's what you want. That's like Geelong. You're almost going to be the northern version of Geelong.
Yep. And even if they do get drafted somewhere else, they probably come home to us for cheap later on. Free agency.
Come back for the surf. Superstars, legends, ladies and gentlemen, that is your 2023 Gold Coast Suns preview. Like I said, I've got them finishing top 8. I think their draw is fantastic. I think their kids that have got coming through are awesome. They're led beautifully from the front. And I think you're going to be in a really good position. And hopefully September-wise, we'll be actually having a chat talking about, for the first time ever, Gold Coast playing finals. So,
I'd love
Mr.
that.
Thom Roker, thank you very, very much. But before we go, I have one simple question that I have to ask you, and it's simply this. Thom Roker from the Gold Coast, how do you want your footy?
Well, like that kicker for the Dallas Cowboys who got the absolute yips and missed 4 in a row the other day. Lace out.
There you go, listeners. Have a great one. Hey, give us some feedback in the chat too if you like it as well too. Tommy, you're a star, mate.
Thanks, Peps.
Thanks for listening to our latest episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on iTunes. I'm your host, Chris Pepper, and with Jamie Wallis, we give you your footy how you want it. Peace out.